Good morning, everybody out there in the YouTube world. Just wanted to come in, make another video about a warning to America. It's not exactly a video that I want to make. I don't even necessarily want to make videos because nothing I say is really what a lot of people want to hear, I've noticed. It's a lot of the subjects that are hard to handle, hard to deal with, but unfortunately this is what the Lord is speaking to me, and certain things that he's speaking to me, he wants me to relay to others. So this is the medium of how I'm doing it right now, is through the internet. I know it's just one voice in the sea of voices out there on the internet, because man, there's like, a million different things. So I'm really just speaking to the people that already have an unction in the Spirit of God that something's coming. And I'm not just talking about like, something small. There is a very big event on our country. I believe God warned through the solar eclipses over those 7 years, from 2017 to 2024. There's also a good book by Mark Biltz. It's called America at War, 2024 to 2026. And he lays out a lot of prophetic imagery and signals. It's way too much to get into. I just recommend go getting the book and reading it for yourself, and put all this in prayer before God. And if the Holy Spirit's already speaking something to you, then I'm just here to try to help, add another part of that view. I'm not trying to come in and, fear monger or any of these other things. In fact, I would recommend that your greatest enemy during this time is fear. And what I see is a lot of Christians that are afraid of being afraid, and that's why they don't tackle the hard subjects, because it brings up fear in them, and they kind of hide behind this notion that like, well, we're just going to trust God, and what can I do about it? And I don't want to sit there and worry about these things. And that is fear of being afraid. You're already in a state of fear. So to me, we all get fearful. We all got to deal with it. And the best way to overcome it is to walk and take steps forward by the leading of the Spirit of God in overcoming those fears and preparing in whatever manner that God is leading you into. So I first and foremost, I want to say that before I get into everything else I'm going to say, because it is something that is very heavy. And essentially, right now, I see a convergence of the natural intelligence and wisdom that is coming from, people in the know around the world, and also a prophetic warning that God has been doing through the people of God, and more specifically, I would say through the signals in the sky. And that's what the Bible says. One of the reasons they were put there is for signals, to signal you of something to come. When you have a road sign that says, hey, there's a construction zone ahead, okay, that means most likely when you get down the end of, towards that road, you're going to run into a construction zone, or so on and so forth, or if the bridge is out, right? Well, these signals that God is giving in the sky, according to Genesis 1:14, signs and signals, he has warned America quite a bit. So without further ado, basically what I see coming, and I feel like 100% on this at this point, is I believe we're going to enter into a time of war. And I'm not talking about, like we're going to go fight some other country, overseas, that we're going to, go and, be a part of, some kind of foreign war. I'm talking about it is coming here to American soil. And what I see is most likely the first form of it is going to come in a major terrorist attack. And that's from everything prophetically, and also now what I've looked at, just the intelligence that's coming out from different people, from different groups. I believe that this is going to probably, it's really hard to tell, like, to what extent it's going to be. I'm praying that obviously it is minimized. If you want to get into the full details of what this is shaping out to be, I suggest going to Survival Dispatch or Survival Dispatch News. It's on YouTube, and it's on a bunch of other platforms. And they have done a full series breaking down all of the information, different ways that you can prepare on it, on basically what they're calling 9/11 2.0. So essentially, to break it up, what's coming is it's an attack on 10 to 15 different cities at the same time, but these are like mid-level cities. These aren't like big cities like LA or New York. We're talking about cities that, let's say 100,000 people to 500,000 people. Excuse me. And the reason being is that they don't have the infrastructure and they don't have the resources, either medically or, through the police, to be able to deal with a, multifaceted attack. So they're going to try to attack 10 to 15 cities at once. And there's very credible information that this is going to happen. Everything from Tom Homan, who is, the ICE director, to people that have worked in Border Patrol, to former CIA targeters, to other intelligence agencies, private, and also, within, the FBI. I mean, the FBI director under Biden, he said that there was more signals going off, more red lights, alarms going off for a terrorist attack than even before 9/11. So there's plenty of information out there that this is not just some kind of pie in the sky conspiracy theory. I'm trying to tell you, I think this is going to happen one way or another. And I'm putting this out there to be like, hey, you need to realize, what are you going to do when this goes down? You need to be praying about what you're going to do. And so anyways, back to the scenario. It's going to be 10 to 15 cities. It's going to be mid-tier cities, and most likely it's going to be cities that have only one level 1 trauma center. And the reason being is because they want to they want to tax the police response and the EMT response to the point where people are left to themselves, that there is no one coming. And that's one of the things you're going to have to get a grip on is that when this goes down, there is nobody coming to save you. So if you're accustomed to outsourcing all of your protection to the police, or the medical to the hospitals, or food to the grocery store, you're going to have a hard time with this. And this is where, I believe Jesus can come and save you. But when it comes to any kind of earthly, natural means, there will be nobody coming to save you during this time. So the ultimate plan is it's a mixture of the Mumbai attack that happened in India in 2008, combined with something like what happened on 9/11, and also what happened in October 7th in Israel. So essentially what you're looking at is convergence of 3 different variations of attack all at once on 10 to 15 different cities. So first, it may begin with something like you have multiple groups of attackers that come in and they attack all the schools, and they attack, several active shooter events in schools, grocery stores, let's say something like that, right? And typically when there's an active shooter, all the police in that area are going to go to that one spot. But if let's say you have 3 or 4 different attacks all at the same exact time in that one area, the police, for one, are not going to know what to do. You know, and then if there's a secondary attack upon that, meaning when the police do show up to one area, that they're ambushed, or there's some kind of explosive type of scenario where, like, maybe you got a couple guys shooting in one area, the police all show up, they're all piled in, there's 30 cop cars in one area, and then a suicide bomber walks in the midst of them and clacks himself off. These are the type of tactics and scenarios that they're actually planning. And this is something that we have not really experienced, here in America, but this has been experienced all over the world, especially in places, like Africa, a little bit more in Europe lately. But so that would be the initial kickoff of the whole thing. There could be then simultaneously, while this is going on, these active shooter events, you may see something of the sort of planes being either hijacked or potentially taken at the ground level, or taken overseas and then flown into America. Some sort of hijacking of a plane, and then you're going to see a 9/11 style thing happening simultaneously while the active shooters are happening. You may also see a coordination where they are going to try to bring down infrastructures, water, power, internet, so on and so forth. Now, how much are they going to be able to do with all this? I mean, hopefully not as much. This is what they're planning, though. And, we should all be praying that they're coming against their plans, because if it does go down, and the way it could go down, this event will last potentially days or weeks. And it could be followed by more events after that. And what's going to result is you're going to have a nationwide lockdown. You're probably going to have some form of martial law. In fact, right now, some people are theorizing that maybe that's why the National Guard is being, pulled out, and under the guise of, picking up illegal immigrants, but they're actually, setting the groundwork to deal with a potential, domestic terrorist attack. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea. Obviously, what I'm telling you right now is just stuff that I've gathered from other sources. But it coincides with a warning that I already got from God. So that's why I take it even more seriously. And that's why I believe it is actually going to happen. And so what would I recommend for all this? Well, I'd recommend that you need to be ready to potentially be locked down in your home for weeks, even up to months. You may need to be ready to deal with cell phone towers going down, potential internet blackouts, and even power blackouts for periods of time. For how long? Like I said, it's all speculation, but I do believe this is all in the works. And I also think you need to have a plan. If your kids are in public school, if your kids, if you're a husband and wife and you work away from the home, and your kids are at school, figuring out ways to, for one, have alternative ways to contact each other and communicate with each other, and also to have a plan if something like this goes down. So for us personally in our family, one of the things that I have told my wife is if God forbid this happens in our area, which there is a very good probability that our state, since we're a sanctuary state, may very well be one of the places. Excuse me. But our state in Washington may very well be one of the places that this goes down in, because from Portland up to Seattle, we're basically protecting, illegal immigrants. And a lot of these people that are probably going to be a part of this came into our country illegally. So So what I've told my wife is if this goes down, it's most likely it's going to be something that happens, I would say, either in the morning rush hour, around that time, let's just say around 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning, kind of like what happened with 9/11, or it's going to happen in the evening, like let's say around 4 o'clock, when people are maybe getting out of school, or school's about to end, people are coming home from work. But I also do think there is a third scenario that could happen, and that is that they could try to even pull a more sophisticated attack, and they may try to pull power in certain regions. Because when you look into the fragility of our power grid, it is pretty bad. A lot of people don't really understand how fragile and deteriorating our power grid really is. I mean, it is not good. And so to make an attack on a power grid in a region is very easy. It would not take much. And so if they knocked out the power grid and they decided to go house to house in the middle of the night while people are sleeping, this is a reality as well. And a lot of these guys, they have our gear. All the stuff we left in Afghanistan, all the night vision that has thermal capabilities built into the night vision goggles, a lot of our small arms, all this stuff they all have, and they very well may have smuggled it into the country. So this is a reality, and as much as people want to turn their head away from it, it's something you better start thinking as an inevitability as opposed to a hypothetical. And in that case, you need to have a situation. If there is a night attack, what the chances of it coming to your house are probably pretty slim. America is a gigantic country. This is only going to be certain cities that this happens in. But if you are one of those cities, you might want to have a plan to secure your home and property in case of even a night attack. So I have contingencies for all this with my family. I'm praying about, what exactly to do about any of it. Like I said, I don't want to get into some kind of, state of fear. I want to continue to live my life, continue to take my kids to soccer games and, live a normal life. We just got back from a big event out in Oregon. Thousands of people were there. I'm not going to stop living my life because I know this is going to happen, but I'm just going to mitigate and be prepared as much as I possibly can and have plans. So back to the plan with my family, we have a way to deal with each one of those scenarios. So the night scenario, I think, is probably the most challenging. But if we're separated, I'm at work, my wife is maybe in town or something with the kids, I told her that one of the things that she needs to do is she needs to have a safe place to go to and get off the roads. Because the moment something like this goes down, you're going to have a lot of panic, you're going to have a lot of fear. And one of the things that could potentially end up happening is you may have areas like, those roundabouts they've built everywhere? You may have those become checkpoints, and some of these terrorists may dress up like police, and they may be creating kill zones essentially on the roads. Also, when people are freaking out, you're going to have too many people on the roads that hit all at once, and it's basically going to become a parking lot. So you're going to have means to either stay out of major roads, or you're going to have alternative routes, or you may have to go on foot. So I told her personally is if you're in the midst of any of these things, obviously if you're at a grocery store and it goes down, you need to get out of that grocery store as quickly as possible. But if you're out and about when this happens, I'm recommending that she go to a safe place, like maybe a park that is off the beaten path, somewhere that is not, a place where it's highly populated. Get to there and get on her phone if you still have cell phone communication. We also have a radio that she can scan and listen to what's going on, and slow down, go to a safe place, and don't make any rash decisions. Don't be driving into any kind of, in a place of fear, but stop, find out what's going on, listen to, what's going on with emergency, like the fire department, EMTs, whatnot. Pray, obviously, and get direction before you just start going into fight or flight mode. Because that's what they're banking on. They're banking on everyone's going to react in that fight or flight mode. So that's like, for instance, that's one thing. I also heard like Khalid, who is one of the people that is providing the intelligence from Pakistan that you can see on Survival Dispatch on that series. He recommended renting a storage unit. So somewhere where a safe place you can just go to, hunker down until you can figure out what to do next. Instead of just freaking out, driving off, end up in some, congested area where now you're going to be on foot and your vehicle is you're stranded, from your vehicle. And this is a very real possibility in something like this. And then obviously the ultimate goal is to get back to your home, secure your home, and realize you're gonna probably have to hunker down. And I don't know how long something like this would take to clear out, but there's going to be major, collateral effects that come after this. Like I said, I'm praying that it's diminished, that this event doesn't, isn't as bad as it could get. I don't want this to happen, but I believe that at this point it's going to happen, and that we need to all understand that you're going to have to deal with it one way or the other. So, and I do believe that part of that can come out of this is, I believe that the church in America is going to have to come back to its original roots and realize that if you're having a ministry that's revolving around a building, a church building, it needs to become a community center. It needs to be a place where the community comes together instead of just holding meetings. Okay, I'm all about getting together and worshiping God and having prayer meetings and all that. But we've really lost the whole heart of the gospel, where these buildings could really become a huge resource to the community, and especially to families. Because as of right now, we're in a war no matter what. Whether this event is as bad as I think it's going to be or whatever, you're already in a war every single day. And we're going to have to start adapting to the war that's in front of us. And I'm specifically talking about the church. It is really important that these buildings become sanctuaries for the community, and that we stop trying to build man-made ministries and we get back to the simplicity of the gospel, which is, understanding what Jesus did on the cross, and secondarily making disciples of all nations, helping the orphan and the widow in a time of need, helping the vulnerable, helping the poor, right? These are the vulnerable amongst us right now. And I would say if you're a family that is trying to raise children in modern day America, you're vulnerable, because you're under the biggest attack out of any other people group in America. And we need to get back to helping these groups. And then the church will actually thrive, as opposed to what it is right now, which is, it's just it's just a shell of what it should be. So my encouragement to you is realize that this is serious. I'm not trying to come in. I hope this is not gonna, make you all jacked up, but go watch the series. Each episode on Survival Dispatch is, individually made, but it's also made as a series. It's very informative. This is very credible information that's coming in. This is not conspiracy theory stuff. There is lots of points that you can take from different sources that are all collaborating and speaking the same message. So And most importantly, be praying. You might need a praying fast. Get a plan for you and your family. And I just pray that this reaches as many people as it needs to reach. In Jesus' name, talk at you later.